One of the Army's greatest contributions to New York was a strategic fort and underground network that once protected the city's vital waterways, but is now almost forgotten.
New York is filled with little secrets, but few people know about the not-so-little secret called Fort Totten. Its design and the innovative weaponry used there protected our nation's biggest city for over 150 years. And I'm meeting Sergeant John McCoy, who's going to show me how this was done.
You know how many battles have taken place on the doorstep of America's largest city. New York Harbor was the site of major battles in the Revolutionary War, the Spanish-American War, even World War II, when Nazi U-boats sunk over 1,000 ships here, killing thousands of Americans. And then the entire world was shocked on September 11th, 2001, when New York's Twin Towers were struck at the tip of the harbor, taking the lives of 3,000 people. For over 100 years, enemy forces believed they could move right into New York Harbor with little or no resistance. But with a design put in place by military leaders during the Civil War, the harbor forts have been able to keep any boat from ever getting too close to the city. And Fort Totten has been right at the front lines. I got special permission to explore Fort Totten's underbelly.
Welcome to Fort Totten.
Thank you.
Park Ranger John McCoy was going to take me through it. Fort Totten is perfectly positioned to guard Manhattan from an ocean assault. It was built on one side of a narrow channel where the East River spills into the Long Island Sound, and less than a mile across the water from another stronghold, Fort Schuyler. Together, they created a two-pronged defense system for one of the city's most vulnerable points.
The whole lower east and west side of Manhattan was ports, so it was, in a way, sort of like a heart of shipping.
So, I mean, New York is vulnerable, America is vulnerable.
Exactly.
Built in 1862, as the Civil War was heating up, Fort Totten had high lookout points, cannons, and soldiers at the ready for Confederate gunboats. But when a new enemy and a new war surfaced 30 years later, the two forts developed a hidden subterranean weapon. In order to save New York, the Army not only went underground, they went underwater, planting a series of underwater mines in the riverbed between them. These mines, also called buoyant torpedoes, were first placed in the 1890s during the Spanish-American War. Arranged in a grid, they were weighted down by anchors so they couldn't be seen. But these weren't the self-explosive modern mines of today. These weapons needed to be activated by the soldiers in the fort. The mines were all connected to a distribution box in the water, and then back to the fort via a long submarine cable. If a soldier saw an enemy vessel approaching, he could activate the specific mine that was closest to the ship, leaving the others intact in case of further assault.
So it wasn't the ship hitting the mine that detonated it, it was somebody actually triggering it off.
Switch, yes.
I never knew that.
But Fort Totten had more than an underwater minefield at its disposal. The fort itself was originally designed to hold an arsenal to protect New York during the Civil War. But as weaponry evolved from 19th century cannonballs to heavier artillery in World War II, the design of Totten still worked for hiding highly explosive munitions.
Wow, look at this old door. Old walled off.
Wasn't just too much.
Prison cell.
Yeah, on the chamber next to us, the same arches here, which leads me to believe that they were connected at one point.
Yeah.
Fort Totten is spread over 49 acres and consists of 70 rooms, including weapon magazines, holding cells, and bunkers. Because it was dug below sea level, water constantly seeps into the fort, creating a damp and eerie atmosphere.
God, look how thick the walls are.
Yeah.
They had to build
It had to be strong.
Right, just to prevent any explosion that would have happened.
Now, this is the larger chamber. This chamber is 81 feet long, and it's 22 feet wide.
That's pretty wild to think we're underneath the ground here.
These chambers were made out of solid granite, and they needed to be, to protect the live explosives stored inside. But this Civil War super bunker isn't Fort Totten's only buried secret. For generations, there has been a rumor about a tunnel connecting to Fort Schuyler, under Long Island Sound.
Just follow me this way, watch your step. So yeah, it's weird that this tunnel is high enough for us to stand in.
So they meant people to come in here.
This passageway may be an entrance to the rumored tunnel. If it is, it would be a stroke of tactical genius. Today, there are 13 tunnels under the East River alone and 8 bridges over it. But before 1883, when the Brooklyn Bridge first opened, the only way to get across or communicate with the other side was by boat. This tunnel would have provided a hidden and direct path between Fort Totten and Fort Schuyler.
It gets kind of gnarly right here. Very muddy, very gross. Think about this. I mean, we're inside and below a fort that was modern in 1863, and a complete mystery of a tunnel. All right, this is where it really starts to get treacherous and low. I don't think anybody's gone past this point, but we can go a little bit further. Can't really get any further down here. But you can imagine, and it's likely that this goes onward and quite possibly underneath the harbor, connecting this fort, Fort Totten, with Fort Schuyler across the way. I mean, think about it. 19th century military, they didn't have the kind of communication devices we have today, obviously. So how useful, how strategic would it have been to have an actual tunnel connecting them? And they could have done it right under the harbor, moving men and supplies, armaments, who knows what, between these two sister forts so they could work together.
The tunnel has since collapsed, buried under the harbor forever. Fort Totten's designs were ahead of their time, secrets that helped keep America's largest city safe from enemies over a span of nearly 150 years. And those military secrets continue to be buried somewhere deep in New York's underworld.